So the weapon that we've picked for 5th Q level is the knife. This is a great weapon that is used in our society every single day. So some of the aspects when dealing with a knife is just observance of what the knife is. There's single-edged blades, double-edged blades, throwing knives, there's all sorts of different types. So whenever working with a knife, especially in the dojo setting, you're going to want to observe what that knife is and what the aspects of it are. The second thing that I like to look at with the knife is, how does a knife actually cut? Well, knives cut about the same as swords do. Try and take a knife and just push straight down on the tomato. What usually happens is the tomato smushes out. It doesn't cut. So in order to cut anything, you're either going to have to do a push cut, or a pull cut, or a stab into it. Those are the 3 methods of cutting. So push cut, through, pull cut, or a stab. These are the same ways that a sword goes through and cuts also. So that's one aspect of a knife, is to learn how the knife actually does cutting. Then we get into grips of the knife. How are you going to hold a knife in order for it to do all of these different things that we want it to do? So a standard hold is just like you would be cutting your vegetables and steak and things like that at home. Just a standard grip. This is one grip that we have. The second grip is to reverse this grip. So the knife cutting edge is out facing the same way that you would throw a fist. And there's a gap inside of here. This can be used for hooking and doing all sorts of different ways. But to push and pull these cuts, you have to move in a different fashion than you would if you had a standard grip. So that's the second grip that we like to have. And then the third grip that we like to teach is to tuck this knife in so that you hold the knife so that the blade edge is actually touching up against your forearm. This creates a different aspect of not having the knife have the ability to be stripped from the backside when you're taking somebody on with this and they try and get in behind this knife on a single edge blade application. This makes it a lot more difficult for the person to come in and take a knife away from you, but it also limits you with the reach of how far away. In order to cut with a knife like this, I have to be in close. My other way, I can gain some distance because of the way that I'm holding the knife. So there's positive aspects and negative aspects to all the different ways that you'll hold a knife with these different grips. And it's really good to try and play with these in class when you're using a knife, to not just stick with one single grip that you're always attacking with and trying things out with. You want to try different grips and getting into these different positions using both hands. The next aspect of the knife that I'd like to go over is cutting quadrants. So with the person, if you think of their head is at the top, their feet are on the bottom, and you're going to come in from the sides, there's only so many ways that I can actually move to cut with a knife, to come in at. So we've designed 9 different cutting angles that cover almost all of the quadrants, but there's little variance in between each one. So 1 with the right hand, 2 with the left hand, both at the top, 3 coming in from the side at an angle, 4 the next angle, 5 coming across, 6 coming across the other way, 7 up from underneath, 8 from underneath, and 9 straight in stab. These can change your footwork. I was just using taijutsu and stepping forward and switching hands with each one, but you could just use one single hand motion to stay with all of these different angles also to practice your cutting. But make sure you're using taijutsu to do all of your movements. That's where stepping comes into play here, and it's a really good thing to practice. The next thing we have to learn with the knife is grappling and distancing with a knife. So I'm not always going to be at the same distance, and each scenario is going to change with a knife. And so We'll go over some of these different distances and grappling moves with a partner. So some of the distance and grappling moves that we'll practice with the knife, these are some of the drills that we teach at first. Some of them are really basic, but doing this movement will help all of your ninjutsu with all of your different weapons work if you keep it in mind. So we'll have the person throwing a simple punch, and how I angle off and come away with this, creating distance between me and that person and using the distance of this weapon is one of the first, most basic aspects of I'm further away from them and I'm attacking the closest thing that's to me with this weapon to gain advantage for distance. I can cut and then get out of there and escape. This distance can be practiced from both sides. Learning how to move your body, maintaining your balance, your positioning, your angling, and your timing. This is all a good, simple practice. It's the same as if we were using Jodan Uke, but we're having the knife, so I gain a few more inches of distance here that I can be further away from the person on. So this is a good one to try at first, is just, let's say, a Jodan Uke type of block with the knife. We can go inside and outside with these. The second distance would be to bring in a mid-range distance, where I've not actually grabbed onto the person, we're doing a grappling aspect, but we're doing a middle distance. So that was a far distance range. Now we go in and maybe pass the punch, and I'm in semi-close here, where I'm not actually engaged and grabbed on, but I can use this to come in and cut. So we might pass a punch with our moves and then be in close with this to finish another move. Let's try a different grip on this one. Maybe I'll pass this punch and take it inside here and cut in a different angle. Or come inside the punch and loop this in different ways. And the last aspect is a grappling aspect. So we'll go off of a grab. Now, most people think knife, I have to actually use it as a knife to cut. One of the best parts of ninjutsu that I like is the outside of the box thinking. So maybe I'll use this knife and I'll just push it up against the back of the hand and I'll attack the nerve ending points as a kyusha point. This has affected my attacker so he can't think, and then maybe I just free myself from this and get away. I haven't even cut the person because maybe I don't want to. Maybe I don't want to hurt that person. This aspect of using a knife is a really neat aspect because you don't have to use it to cut. They might grab, and I might use the back edge of the blade that isn't sharp just to pull in to grapple them and subdue them. And maybe I'll just show them that I have a knife in my hand, and that's enough to stop the situation. We'll go back and forth on a couple of these, and we'll just randomly change them up between these distances just to give you guys a couple of examples. Here, why don't you go first? So these are just a few examples of grappling at different distances with the knife. For 5th kyu, we've also wanted to add in the short sword as a weapon. It's very similar to the knife. It's just a longer version of this. So in today's society, you'd have a machete, and those are out and about. So this is a good weapon to know for the length of that. The difference is the machete is quite thinner and the short sword isn't as thick. It's interesting to play with these because they have such a different feel than a longer sword does, and they're meant for closer in combat and wearing indoors and things like that. So this little weapon, the short sword, has a lot of different aspects that you can't do with the long sword. The distancing changes on your draws. If you're in closer quarter combat situations, this comes out and you're able to use it, and it's an interesting tool. It has many of the same qualities that a knife does with the way it cuts, all the different cutting angles and things like that. So we don't have to go over to that much detail, but we'd like to show some movement with the short sword so that you can get an idea of how to use it and which way to start to train.